Welcome to Inventing Anything with littleBits. I'm Dave.
And I'm Emily.
We are both designers here at littleBits. And one of the things that we do is that when littleBits comes out with a new bit, new module, we design the example projects that come along with it. So those example projects are meant to sort of demonstrate all the different sorts of things that you can do with those bits. And it means that we get to play with the bits quite a lot.
Yes, quite a lot indeed. But today we want to talk about one of our newest bits that we just launched, which is the cloudBit. And we're going to talk about some of the interactions that you can do with the cloudBit, and then talk over some of our favorite projects that we've done and also that have come in from our community.
And also during this whole hangout, we are totally open to questions, so feel free to tweet a question at us, and we're more than happy to answer it.
Yes, we are here for live problem solving.
Yes, we are.
So,
oh yes, not only questions, but if you've got a project you're working on and you'd like some input from littleBits designers, we're here to do it.
Yes. So I guess we'll start out with talking about some of the interactions that you can do with the cloudBit. So one of the interactions that you can do is web to bit. And how that works is we're able to talk to our cloudBit here, which then activates our circuit by triggering something on the web. So we can either use our app, which is
Want me to be the app person?
Yes.
You need to put your code in.
Excuse me. Yeah, so this one is one of them. It's either Bitlandia or Bitical. Okay. So this is our littleBits cloud control app, and pretty much what happens is when you either press a button or there's also a slider on there, we will see something happen on our cloudBit. So we are internet connected. So you'll see the light flashes when he presses that button.
I'm actually pressing it. I'm not good at pressing it backwards.
Ah, yes. Oh, there we go. There we go. So that's our web to bit interaction. And second interaction is bit to web. And so basically what's happening here is we are reading out on our cloud control what's happening with this bit right here. And actually maybe it's better to do it with this one.
Yes.
So this one has a slider. So right here we have our slide dimmer, which is sending a voltage to our cloudBit. And so when I bring this up, we will see it mirrored on our cloud module. Oh, excuse me, wrong one. This is, oh yeah, bit. We just named our bits, so making sure that they're working. Cool. And they're set to follow each other?
Yep.
Okay.
So that's the other way that you can communicate. You can control your cloud module using the phone. You can receive information from your cloud module to your phone or to your computer, anything that uses the cloud control web app. And then the other thing you can do is you can go straight from one bit to another, sort of bit-to-bit communication, so that when the slide dimmer goes all the way up on here, it's going to respond by going all the way up on that one, and then when I slowly lower this one down, the dimmer on this one down, you'll see that the slide dimmer on the other one slowly goes down. So that's one way that these guys they communicate back and forth to each other. So some of the projects that we have online don't use cloud control, don't use IFT, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but what they do is they talk just directly between the two bits.
So we'll show you a really quick example of a project that we put together. So these are two talking plants. And so one plant, if you want to just activate the roller switch on this one on the right, Dave, this one here, so it's down below. So we have a roller switch on the plant on the right, and so that then activates our plant on the left to start dancing. So you'll see this one on the left is reacting to the one on the right. And so it works both ways, depending on whether you're across the room from somebody with the project or across the world. These two projects can communicate with one another.
Do you want to talk about IFT? And I'm just getting ready. I see we have an IFT question, so I'm just getting us set up for that IFT question.
Great. So IFT is a service that allows littleBits to talk to other web apps. So it allows us to talk to Gmail, it allows us to talk to Twitter, it allows us to talk to other internet-connected devices. And the way that it works is that you'll set up a recipe, and IFT, by the way, stands for if this, then that. So we can set up a recipe that says, if I press my littleBits button, then send me an email. And so that works both ways, where we can say, oh, okay, somebody hashtagged littleBits. That means light up my littleBits cloud module. And so
IFT, in one of our projects, Mr. Thirsty, IFT is also how we've done our data logging. So that anytime, you can go the other way, so that anytime one of our bits, so we have a bit attached to our water cooler, and anytime our water cooler is activated, it goes to IFT, and IFT then creates a row in a Google spreadsheet that logs with the date and time that the water cooler was activated. So that's the other way you can use IFT to receive to your cloudBit, but you can also cloudBit to IFT. And so the specific question that we had about IFT was, I'd like to develop a little device that flashes, beeps, etc. when a we can't quite see it. You'll see it as we get more questions. You'll see it. So we've got this as one of our projects, but you'll see that this is a balloon here that it's attached to a tank. So every time we get a question, our balloon is going to inflate to let us know that there is a new question.
So ask lots of questions so we can blow this balloon up as big as it possibly can get.
And in case you're wondering, yes, we've experimented many times to see how far the balloon can blow up. It blows up really, really big, and then I won't tell you whether or not it explodes or goes flying around the room. The only way you're going to find out actually is to ask us a lot of questions. But so to answer the question is, I'd like to develop a little device that flashes, beeps, etc. when a particular tweet is made from a specific account, not mine. And this question is from Will Roberts. So you'll notice that when you go to IFT, which is one way you could get this project done, when you go to IFT, it has a very specific list of triggers and actions. So triggers are going to be the things that, the events that will send a signal to your cloudBit. And that's the kind of thing that you would be looking for with this. You want a certain tweet to activate your cloudBit, which would then turn on the flashing LED light. Now the way that IFT is set up with Twitter is that it doesn't, it only works within your Twitter account. So that if you make a new tweet, if you have a particular hashtag, but it doesn't search the entire of the Twitter universe. So IFT isn't the way that you'd want to get that done, but I believe that you could use Twitter's API to do that. So that's a little bit more of an advanced project, and so but you can use APIs with the cloud module, and the documentation for that, for the cloudBit API is on our website under the cloudBit information, and then Twitter's would be on their website. But so that's how you would want to go about that project, because IFT does have doesn't have an infinite number of possibilities that you can take.
Cool. Did we want to look at our IFT? Do we want to look at a sample IFT recipe? I think we're getting that set up.
We're still working on the screen sharing aspect of this.
Yes. But moving along.
It already happened.
Oh.
They already did it. So you already saw our shared screen.
The people that are sharing the screen.
Okay.
Great.
So next, I think what we'll do is we might talk a little bit about some of our projects, some of the exciting projects, just kind of go through. Share them with you and maybe go through them in a little more in-depth than we have on the website. And also, if you guys have any questions about the projects, feel free to shoot them towards us.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think maybe we'll start out talking about some of our favorite projects done by the community and some that we've done here as well. And some of our favorite projects are really ones that solve a unique problem to a specific user. So we have a project featured on our website right now, which allows a dad to measure how much chicken feed is in his chicken feed bucket remotely to check whether his daughters have fed the chickens. So it's a really amazing project, and what he's done is he's hooked a slide dimmer up to a weight, and so that weight is connected to the bucket, and so when the bucket is pulled down, we see that the slide dimmer is at full voltage, and so that's sending a message to the cloudBit that can be read out on cloud control, and he can see how much feed is in that chicken bucket at any given time. So it's real-time monitoring, and he's able to know whether his daughters have done their job filling the chicken feed.
So one of the things that I would say about this project that is sort of a tip for other projects is if you're trying to figure out how to do something for a littleBits project, going over our existing projects can be a really great resource. So for example, this was a really specific problem about weighing the amount of chicken feed in a chicken feed container. But what the family that designed this project figured out was how to make a littleBits scale, essentially, and that they took a slide dimmer, something that they had to weigh, and a spring. And so the heavier it is, the further down it pulls on the spring, and the lighter it is, the higher it rides on the spring. And so that just slides the slide dimmer up and down. So like maybe you're not feeding chickens, but you want to measure, garbage scraps, or you want to measure how much Halloween candy you collected, or you want to measure like how many apples you harvested from your tree, whatever it is. By digging through and seeing how other people have solved similar problems, you can then take that part of the project and put it into yours.
Mm-hmm. And we learn a lot from our community members every day, looking at the amazing projects that they're making.
Yes, we do. So maybe do we want to talk about another project?
Yeah, absolutely.
Got a couple we could go over here.
Yeah, you want to do SMS doorbell?
Let's do it. So that right there, this is our SMS doorbell, or our text messaging doorbell. The circuit on the inside is super simple. You'll see we've got,
mirrored.
So we got our USB power, we've got our button, we've got our LED, and then we've got our cloud module. And the way this guy works is that when I press the button, it's going to send a signal to the cloudBit, and the cloudBit goes to IFT, and then IFT sends us a text message. So fairly straightforward. When we press that button, we're going to get a text message. And one of the things that I want to point out, this is sort of a design geeky tip, but I think it's good, is you'll notice the LED in here, and you'll think, well, the LED isn't totally necessary. I mean, I could still run this circuit with just the power, the button, and the cloudBit. All right,
question.
We've got a question. So you could still run this with the button and the cloudBit. But putting lights after buttons can actually be really helpful, because with an electric circuit, you don't always know if something's been triggered, if it's been activated, if it's been turned on. And it's really helpful to have that visual feedback so that you know that you can't quite see it. There we go.
There we go.
Bright lights. But so that from within sort of the housing of all of this stuff, when you're not sure whether or not it's getting power or not, or whether or not you press the button hard enough, that light will always let you know that the signal's gone through.
Mm-hmm. Great tip. So it looks like we have a question from Darla in Louisiana, and Darla asks, what tools do you use to make projects? Well, that's a good question. You'll see behind us we have a whole, this is part of our workshop, we're actually in our workshop now. So we use all the typical tools that you would use when building things. And then we also, I'll just spin this guy, we have a couple 3D printers over here. So we have a Form 3D printer and Up 3D printer. And we also use a laser cutter, which is in the other room.
But I guess
and pardon the boxes, we just moved to the new office.
So a lot of times you'll see in projects that we build, we've got these sort of like these tabs on all the wooden pieces. And for us, that's sort of the telltale sign that we've used a laser cutter, because you can cut in these tabs, and then that makes gluing those joints together pretty easy, because they hold solid. And there are a couple of different websites online where you can just sort of type in, I want a box that's 4 inches by 4 inches by 5 inches, and it will spit out a file that has all those tabs already cut in it. But I would also note that, so we use a laser cutter in part because, you know, our office is we don't have like a table saw and a chop saw and those like sort of, you know, garage type tools that you might have. We have more along the high tech side tools. But like all of these projects, if you see that something's using a laser cutter and you have access to a saw, you can still be making those.
Saw over behind Dave's head.
Yes. So you can still be making those projects just using those same dimensions. And obviously you wouldn't have to worry about cutting out all of those little tabs.
Absolutely. Cool. I guess we should. Do you want to talk about another project?
Yes.
So another project that we have, I'll talk about one from the community. So this one is called Twiggy's Tweets. No pun intended. You'll see why. But basically, what's happening in this project is what we call a bit to web to bit interaction. So there's a lot going on here, all using the cloud module as its center connection. And so if you see in the video, you might have to go to that YouTube link, but you'll see in the video that basically the dog is walking back and forth, which is activating a motion trigger, and every time that happens, the owner gets a text message that says like, oh, you know, Twiggy, text message from Twiggy.
Then you know that the dog is sort of up and about and antsy and not.
Yeah. Exactly, and so in order to calm Twiggy down, the owner can send a text message to her and then actually release a treat into a bowl to let her know that, yeah, somebody's thinking about you and here's a treat. So, you know, we have both bit to web, where we're using a sensor actually to gather, like to send information automatically to the owner, and then the owner is then able to send a text message back, triggering that. I think it's a DC motor spinning the treat box. So it's both remote control and also, you know, it's automatic. Using littleBits sensors is a really great way to automate something, like get automatic information from your home. So that could be a light sensor. Say the light goes down, and you want to know whether your lights, or say your lights are on and you left your house and you want to know if that's the case. You can actually be able to check that and then turn it off.
Or if you want to know if the light actually goes off when the refrigerator closes.
Yeah.
Oh, another question. Let's just see. Can you receive information from a cloudBit to a web service that is not the littleBits web app, or if this, then that? The short answer is yes. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier. No, that question is from Sunny Nagara. So the short answer is yes, and the way that that needs to happen is through the littleBits Cloud API. So essentially, the same information that runs cloud control, which is the visual interface that allows you to input data into your cloudBit and then also receive data from your cloudBit. So that same structure exists as an API, and for those of you who are not familiar with that term, basically what an API is API is that same information, but it's put in sort of computer language. It's put in a sort of structure and syntax so that computers can read it, because a computer can't go to a web page and scroll down and click a button and do all those sorts of things. Not really how it works. So if you wanted to connect with a web service, any web service that has an API, you can do so with with using the cloudBit API. And so like an example is with this project, the weather dashboard that we did. If This Then That has their own weather service that will check the weather once a day, but we wanted to have it so that it was updating all the time. We wanted to have it so that it was updating like every 10 minutes or every 30 minutes because we wanted to know right now what the weather was. So what we did is we went to Weather Underground, which is a website which has weather data, sort of like weather.com. And they have an API, which means that their website also comes in a way that you can access it with code as opposed to visually with a computer so that a computer can read it. And so we wrote a little program, and that program can either sit on your computer running, or if you want to have it running all the time, you can upload it onto a server. And that program goes and it says, okay, I'm going to read the weather information from Weather Underground, and I see that the temperature is 85. So now I'm going to send 85 through cloud control down to my cloudBit, which will move the servo to a specific spot. Or, for example, like, is it cloudy or is it rainy? So if you want to connect with stuff that's not in IFT and not in cloud control, APIs are where you want to look. And
looks like we got another question. Keep blowing up that balloon.
But our question, oh, here we go. So does the littleBit cloud create its own ad hoc network, or does it need to be connected to a Wi-Fi network in order to send and receive data?
Great question.
It is a great question. And so the short answer is no, it doesn't create its own ad hoc network. What it does is it will connect to your own sort of Wi-Fi network at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to be in an area not only where there's Wi-Fi, but Wi-Fi that you have access to, so that there's a setup process where you type in your password and the bit connects.
Yes, and cloud control makes that very easy. So you can just go into your cloud control, say add a new device, and it walks you through the steps to connect to your local Wi-Fi. You'll have it set up and working in a couple minutes. Yeah.
Oh, and then we've got someone who wants to see the, so I'm going to grab a box so we can lift the balloon a little higher. So that you guys can see it
here
better.
What if we go like this?
I'm tall, so my head will disappear.
Oh, that's true. Here we go. All right. Great. So do we? Okay, we just answered the question.
I think we did.
Okay.
And if we didn't, you can ask again, and we'll make sure we get it.
All right. So do you want to talk about another project? It looks like we have a couple others that we were thinking about sharing with you guys.
Were we going to do the thermostat? Because it's not here.
Well, I think we can show it on screen.
Oh, we'll show it on screen,
Dave
of course.
did a really great explanation of how the thermostat works on screen, so
Great.
We'll have it playing in the background while we explain.
Yes. So we'll walk you through what basically the idea is that there are a lot of smart thermostats out on the market now, things like Nest, that allow you not only to see what the temperature is in your home when you're not there, but then also allow you to control what you would like the temperature to be. And so we wanted to do it with bits. And so we came up with two different ways to do it, and this is sort of the fancier one.
Mm-hmm.
There's another sort of simpler, more guerrilla one, but this one we'll walk you through. Basically, we took a really simple thermostat that you would get at any hardware store, and this will be sort of like the cheapest one. It doesn't have any digital interface or anything like that. It's basically just a dial that you set to a specific temperature and a little thermostat in there. And what we did is we took that less accurate metal thermometer out and replaced it with a servo. And the reason that works is because what that thermostat basically does is when the little metal coil in there gets hot, it flips on one direction, and when that little metal coil gets cold, it flips on another direction. So that basically is just flicking a switch on and off, turning your AC or heater on or off. And so we just replaced it with a servo. So the servo is what's turning that switch on and off. And then we use littleBits littleBits in the cloudBit to build a circuit to let us do that. And so here we've got our diagram there. But basically, just to sort of run down, we've got a temperature sensor, which then goes on to a number module. And so that'll give you a visual reading of what the temperature currently is. And then you'll see it goes into an Arduino, and from there to a cloud. And so what happens is that's how you can read what the temperature is in your house if you're at work or on vacation or whatever, is the cloud is getting sent that temperature information from the temperature sensor. And then there's the other, that's one side of it, is you want to know what temperature it is, but the other side of it is you'd like to be able to then say, well, I want it to be colder or I want it to be hotter. And so you'll notice that there's a second Arduino on the bottom there that goes to another number bit. And so what that Arduino is in charge of is deciding what the temperature should be. And so what was important to us in this project is that you can send a signal to the cloudBit to say, I want it to be 65 degrees. But let's say you're in your house and your phone is charging upstairs in your bedroom. You don't want to run all the way up to your bedroom to get your phone just so you can change the temperature of the thermostat, which is 2 feet in front of you. So we also have that the dimmer switch, the dial. And so what that Arduino does is if whichever one of those two signals is most recent, it'll read that. So if I go up to it and I switch the dimmer switch and I turn it down to 65 degrees, it'll go down to 65 degrees. But then if I go to work and I change it through the cloudBit, it'll say, oh, the cloudBit just changed. That's the one we should be reading.
Oh, looks like we got a question.
Oop.
Do we have a question about the thermostat? Oh, not about the thermostat. We've got another question. Comment from someone on Facebook. Looks like David Peterson would like to see an example of cloud plus synth.
Sure. We do. We have one of our community members actually right around the time of maybe last week did a synth plus cloudBit demo. So we'll see if we can pull that up. I believe the user was Brett Thornton. So if you can find him. But while they're looking for that, I'll quickly run over what mixing the cloudBit and the synth bit can do. What the cloudBit is going to be really good for is getting participation from people who aren't sitting in front of you in whatever music it is that you're doing. So as you saw with our demo on the phone, you see that the cloudBit you can push a button, but you can also run a slider. You can also give it a variable voltage. And so if that, hold on, let me find the synth bit.
So for example, Dave mentioned our slider, our slide dimmer, which gives out variable voltage. But you'll also see, I don't know if you grabbed a keyboard, but our littleBits synth keyboard with every different button sounds out a different voltage too. So that information is sent through the cloud to the output, which changes depending on what voltage we're sending on the input.
So let's say you had a buddy in Australia, and so they had their keyboard followed by a cloudBit, and then you here in the United States had your cloudBit, the signal, and you had them following each other. The signal coming out of your cloudBit would be whatever your friend in Australia is pressing in the keyboard. Mm-hmm. So you could be collaboratively making music across the globe.
Yeah. Worldwide symphony.
The other thing is you'll notice something like the filter, right? It has sort of the littleBits traditional in and out, but then it also has an extra in right here, which is the frequency in. And so that's another place where you can attach a cloudBit and use that slide dimmer essentially to change what's going, how that filter is working. All right, so we found Brett's synth project, so we can just take a quick look. They said they're ready to, there we go. So it's let your fans contribute to your synth performance, that one all the way on the right. And so you'll see here what Brett has set up is he has his cloud. If we go, yeah, he has his cloud all the way on the left, and the cloud right before the sequencer. And so what the sequencer is getting is the sequencer is getting basically voltage, which causes it to step through, from one phase to the next, and then when the signal from the cloudBit stops, then the sequence stops. And so that part of his sense circuit only operates when someone on the other end of cloud control is pushing the button and letting that signal go through. All right.
Cool.
So do we want to move on to another project, or do we have another question? Nope.
Looks
Okay.
like
Another
project it is. So we had mentioned Mr. Thirsty, but I think I don't know how much we talked through Mr. Thirsty, which is one of our favorite office projects here at littleBits.
So yeah, actually, Abe, why don't we find Mr. Thirsty, or maybe they already did while we were. Yes, so there's Mr. Thirsty. So
our faithful friend.
So this is our water cooler in the office, and it is a really slow, like painfully slow water cooler.
And you have to press the buttons really hard in order to get water to come out.
So if you press the button and you're sitting there for like 20, 30, 40 seconds.
Your fingers get very strained.
And we have very lazy fingers in the littleBits office. But more also, just like when there's just even the slightest problem, if we can fix it with littleBits, it's way more fun to do it that way. So this is the first. So what actually we're looking at now is we're looking at the first Mr. Thirsty, and what we want to look at. So first we set this up, and this is the basic Mr. Thirsty that we did a couple months ago. You'll see in November of 2013. And so in there, when you press the button, we've gone incognito. There, when you press the button, it basically is on a timer that we set with a timeout, so that you don't have to sit around and wait, so that Mr. Thirsty starts filling. But once we developed the cloudBit, we wanted to go like one step further with Mr. Thirsty. So we thought it would be really fun to log all of our water consumption in the office, and not just how much we're drinking, but when we're drinking it. So to see if we could see any patterns. For example, I've noticed that there are a lot of people who fill up between 8 and 9 when they get in the morning, and then there's nothing until lunchtime. And there's a lot at lunchtime, and then there is clearly a 3 to 4 o'clock thirst movement.
Always
that happens.
good to hydrate.
And so you'll see here we've got a Google spreadsheet. So like I said before, we use if this then that. So anytime Mr. Thirsty fills up a glass, it then sends a signal into the cloudBit, and that cloudBit triggers an if this then that recipe, which logs it on that Google spreadsheet. And for any of you who've checked out that spreadsheet, you might have noticed that we haven't been drinking anything for the past 2 weeks. But as Emily said, we just moved to a new office, and we're still waiting for the plumber to put in the pipe to hook up Mr. Thirsty. So that's why Mr. Thirsty hasn't been filling lately.
Stay tuned. He will be back in action soon.
But this is one of the things I was really excited about the cloudBit for, not just Mr. Thirsty, but also data logging. That being able to track data like that. There are a lot of fun sort of citizen science movements throughout the country. There's one here, I believe, in New York City, or probably more than one. And so, yeah, that being able to collect your own data is really fun. So we got another question from our balloon.
From Joe in NY. How can you connect bacon to the cloudBit? Wow. It's quite the question, Joe.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking. Depends.
I mean, bacon is pretty loud. It sizzles pretty loudly when you're cooking it.
We're gonna take the term connect liberally, because I don't suggest actually making contact between bacon and your cloudBit. But yes. Yes, I'm thinking sound trigger would be the way to go.
Yes, absolutely.
If you wanted to, you could have a bacon notification.
You could have it
in the morning.
Yes, you could have your sound trigger when the bacon was ready and when it was really crispy and starting to fry and making noise. You could have it send a message to your sleeping family member,
or
calling them to come get the bacon.
Or if you wanted to play a trick on
evil.
said sleeping bag.
Evil.
You could rig up a sizzling bacon sound with your synth, and then place it in that person's room, and then trigger it with your cloudBit, leading them to believe that there is bacon being cooked when it's not.
But alas.
Okay, so we got another balloon. Oh.
Interesting question.
If you were trapped on a desert island, what 4 bits would you bring? I'm going to assume that there is power on the island.
Okay, all right.
But that there are no other ways that we can use the power. There's no other electronic devices.
There's no
ham radio to call for help.
No Wi-Fi.
Nope, no Wi-Fi.
cloudBit is out.
Okay.
cloudBit can totally save you if there was Wi-Fi.
Right.
Assuming power.
So this is what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with a motor. We've got a lot of bits handy here. I'm going to go with a motor because in a pinch, a motor can do all sorts of things. Like Swiss Family Robinson style, it can open the curtains.
You can make a really slow drill with that.
You can make a really slow drill, yes. You could take fillings out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Emergency dental work.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I would bring a motor, or I suppose I got to bring a power. I want to power my motor. I would bring an LED. So I can see in the dark.
Light.
And I would bring that so that I could scare away the wild animals. That is my list of 4 bits for a desert island.
Amazing.
I'm thinking we should actually.
I mean, that's really the basics.
We should package. It is. It is. I think everything that.
Maybe it's explode.
We should package that and sell it as like a littleBits emergency.
Oh, I like it. It's light, motion, and sound.
All right.
So, uno más question. A very eager question.
I understand that you can send information from a web service to the cloudBit, but can you send information from the cloudBit to a custom URL? Sorry if you answered this, but it was unclear. Oh, so this is from Sunny again, and I guess we didn't quite answer his question. So the short answer is, yes. And so if you wanted to send it to a custom URL, you would want to use the littleBits API. And so there are API documents which sort of give you a little bit of decoding and tell you the right way to access the cloudBit. So, for example, the information that you're going to get from your cloudBit is going to be a number from 0 to 99, which is a little bit like what you get on our number bit. And so basically, the information you're getting from your cloudBit is the percentage of voltage that is coming into the cloudBit, the signal it's receiving. And so you could use your API. Then you would say, okay, well, I want to take the voltage that's coming from my cloudBit, and then you would need to create code to do this, but say, and then I want to send it to this specific URL, and sort of what you did from there. So Sunny, I hope. And Sunny, if we haven't answered your question exactly, you also, of course, at any time can email us, and we will do our best to make sure that we are answering it and getting your questions answered to your satisfaction.
Yes. Balloon blew up a little bit more. Don't know if we have another question coming. Oh, looks like someone
needs a laundry alert.
Sam in California needs a laundry alert. Well, that is a great question, Sam. And we actually do have a community member that made just the project for you. So one of our evangelists, actually, Glenn, he came up with this really great alarm system that sends him a text message when his dryer emits a noise when it's done. And so basically his circuit was power, sound trigger, cloud. And so whenever the laundry beeped to let us know that it was done, it sent a pulse to the cloud, which then, through a recipe that he set up in IFT, sent him a text message that said, yo, your laundry's done. Come and get it.
And then I think one of the things that one of the questions we had from someone a couple of days ago was about, well, my sound alert on my laundry is broken. So I can't use a sound trigger to know when the laundry's done. In one possible, I don't know what kind of washer or dryer they have, but one solution they could also look at for if they don't have an audible alert on their washer dryer is someone did this very cool project. They wanted to know when their camera battery charger was complete.
Yeah.
And so when the charger is complete, a little LED starts blinking on the charger. And so what they did is they set up a light sensor in their cloud module. And so the light sensor triggered once the LED on the charger was blinking, and that let them know that the camera battery was charged. And so if your washer or dryer has a light on it that either goes on or maybe the light turns off when the wash is done or when the dryer is done, you could use that instead of the sound trigger. So I mean, I think that's one of the great things about having sort of a collection of sensors, not just sound sensors, but light sensors and motion, stuff like that, is that it gives you a lot of different ways to work around a problem and find a different way to do it.
Cool.
So that's how I would figure out when your laundry's done.
Yes. All right. I mean, it looks like we are winding down, but maybe we'll talk about one last project.
Oh, Sunny says thank you. You're welcome, Sunny.
Oh. Okay, so one last project. We talk about Darth Vader umbrella or cloud-based father warning system. There's two really great projects that we got in from community. Do we have a vote?
I'm going to go with
No.
cloud-based father warning system. That's my vote.
All right.
So if we can pull that one up. So I'll give you a brief introduction while we're looking for it. The basic idea here is that there is a family. The father works up, I think they said about 15, 20 minutes away. Oh, here we go. And so the mother and the son want to know when the dad is leaving the office and heading home for work. In part so I think that they can start getting dinner ready. I think that's what it says. There's a great description by the Finn, the 8-year-old boy who made this project. There also is a fantastic diagram by Finn. It's one of my favorites I've seen in a long time. I think we're checking it out right now. So you see in this diagram, you'll see the father is leaving work, and it is sending a signal up to the cloud. And you'll see the lightning bolts sending that signal to the cloud module, cloudBit, which then activates the warning system. So the way that this works using IFT. And one of the cool things about IFT is if you have an Android phone or an iPhone, it can hook up to the location on that. And so this project basically is when the father leaves work, it notices that the location is no longer at work. And so it activates it. Sends a signal to the cloudBit, and then in this awesome Lego creation that you see here, the little Lego man father suddenly rises up out of this truck, and then a buzzer goes off, letting them know that the father is on the way home. And unfortunately, the video is not working on that. But because I always like to leave with a video, maybe we'll just really quickly look at the Darth Vader.
It's a really amazing video.
Mm-hmm. So try and go to that one. This is navigate to that. But this project is another one of our community projects, and it's another weather warning system. And so it basically tells you when there is rain in the forecast, but it does it in such a wonderfully creative way. So you'll see here we have the Darth Vader Lego action figure.
With the mini drink umbrella.
Yes, with the cocktail umbrella. And then if we scroll down, there should be a video, and you will see Darth Vader in action. And I don't think you guys will be able to hear it over the Google Chat, so I recommend go to our website and check this project out because it also has, of course, wonderful music. But so what happens is when what happens? IFT he has the recipe on IFT that checks the weather, and if there is rain scheduled for the day, Darth Vader opens up his little cocktail umbrella, letting you know that there's rain scheduled and that you too should bring your umbrella.
And you'll see some nice graphics in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that the umbrella is opening and closing is there's actually a servo down underneath Darth Vader, and so the cloud is telling the servo either to be high or low, depending on the weather reading. And there we have a nice detail shot.
Always a winner when there's Star Wars involved too.
It looks like we have one more question.
Yep.
And the question is, what new bits do you have coming out this year?
Oh.
Great question. We, you might have seen in some of the projects that we've actually posted that use the cloud module, there are some bits that are coming soon.
We couldn't resist playing with the new toys a little early.
So one is an MP3 player. Which is really exciting because now we're able to actually load sound files onto a bit and then have those play in reaction to some sort of an input.
Yeah. So I mean that's great. You know, not just you think of an MP3 player. Usually you think of music and you're going to play songs. You can do that with this MP3 player, but it also allows you to add, you know, all sorts of your own recorded or found audio. Mm-hmm. So that you can begin to have projects that speak with a real voice. Yeah. And all sorts of other things.
Absolutely.
We have a temperature sensor,
yes,
which you saw we used on the DIY thermostat.
Which is just going to change things for automating things in your home and being able to like read the temperature and control it remotely.
I'm really excited and hoping I get to see some food projects with the temperature sensor. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who are...
Is your dinner still hot?
Or people brewing their own beer, people fermenting things like kimchi and all that kind of... Like, there's sort of the DIY food movement. And one of my sort of personal passions is when the DIY food movement meets the DIY hardware movement, when people start inventing their own kitchen equipment. So yeah, I'm really excited for the temperature sensor also to see people start making those, you know, those things to monitor the fermenting of their beer and stuff.
And soon we will be able to connect to a piece of bacon. And then there's one other bit that is a game changer. It's pretty exciting. It's the IR transmitter coupled with the AC switch. So basically what happens here is that we have the IR transmitter sends out a burst of light, which will then be caught by the AC switch. And the AC switch can then turn on your household appliances. So now you're actually able to control like your lamp or your window AC unit or your coffee maker with littleBits, which is something that you've not been able to do before.
Yeah. So breaking into the world of household voltage.
Yes.
It's going to be very exciting.
Yeah.
Speaking of very exciting, I just want to do, we're going to wrap up now, and I want to talk about a little bit about, I want to make sure you guys tune in next week. So next week, there's going to be another littleBits Hangout, and this is with our founder, Ayabadir, here, and also with the product developers and the engineers who put all the hard work into creating the cloudBit. So especially for those of you who have more technical questions or want to learn about, want to hear a little bit about how we how we develop these new bits. Like, what's the process? There's a lot that goes into making these guys and making sure that they're compatible with all the other bits and all that kind of stuff. So tune in next week to chat with Aya and the folks who developed the cloudBit. It'll be really awesome. We want to thank everyone for coming, for sending your questions, for tuning in, for playing with littleBits. Again, if you have a question that wasn't answered, please don't hesitate to email us. We love answering questions.
We do.
It's exciting to see people using stuff and making stuff and trying to learn more and build more. So
yeah, and we always learn from you guys and your questions and your projects.
So thank you very much, and hope to see you here next week.